Welcome to Business Influencers. Hope everyone is having a great week. We're having a lovely week weather-wise here in the New York City area. It has been just clear skies, very little humidity, and I can tell you it has really helped to raise my level of confidence even further, everything that we're doing here at Business Influencers. We want to welcome those that are new to Business Influencers. You found us here at the TALRadio.org website. We also encourage you to check us out on Apple, Spotify, and of course, YouTube, where this show can be heard either in an audible version or also in a video version. Also, we would love to hear from you. Any feedback that in terms of subject matter that will help to move your business and your personal success to the next level, we are committed to that. Feel free to reach out to us at chris@christophersalem.com. That's chris@christophersalem.com. Well, we got a great show for you today, and our show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. They are a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types. This is a chance to rekindle old relationships or perhaps meet new people for the first time. And this is a platform that is not like other social media platforms. You don't have all the notifications, all the noise. This is about connecting with people where you can do it in a genuine, authentic way. You can share all types of content that resonate with each of the people that you're connecting, and you get to do it on your time. It's also a membership program offering a wide array of affinity programs and services to help move your business and personal success to the next level. And again, these are services and programs that probably you would most likely not get anywhere else. Feel free to check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, as I mentioned, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about vision of capability. We're here with the founder and CEO of Winning Profile, Dr. Gary F. Russell. Gary is also a talent strategist, helping individual athletes and executives understand their own talents, but also teaching them how talent can be recruited, selected, developed, retained, and exited properly. And without further ado, we welcome Dr. Gary Russell to the show. Gary, how you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we are so happy to have you here. And, you and I have had, some discussions offline and, love what you're doing in terms of this area, all the things you do with your assessment and so on. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot about that today here on the show. But let's kind of dive into, vision of capability. What would that mean if you could share with the listeners?
Well, it's something that I don't think most of the world thinks about, although I think they should. I don't believe that most people in this world believe they're capable or capable enough. And I believe that doubt is the cancer of psychology. So I think changing that vision of capability is what we do. And we do it by profiling talent, which is our pre-wired condition at birth. And we share that information with people and teach them how to use it. So whether I'm working with an Olympian who we would think has all the vision of capability in the world, especially if they're a bronze medalist, but they have a lot of self-doubt when it comes to, can they get to gold? Can they improve what they already have? And I love asking people like that, or executives, why are you so good? And they kind of look at me and go, and they start telling me what they've done to get good. And I have to interrupt them and say, I didn't ask you what you've done. I want to know why. Do you know why? And most of them don't, because they've been too busy being successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And you said, people are capable to, to exceed their capabilities. Can you run through some of the things that, what would be something like if people are hearing this for the first time, or maybe people are been living in this doubt of themselves and maybe feel like that, am I capable of getting to that next level in my business or whatever that may be? What could you share with them? What could be something they could start with?
Well, I think we now know through science that 7.5 billion people on this planet have talent. Everybody has it. Everybody's born with it. What we don't know is what kind of talent it is and where could we possibly use it. I think people in a hierarchy of an organization or in sport, they think they have it, but I don't. And that's why they are where they are. And this is why I'm here where I am. When in fact, if people would understand the talents that they have, it doesn't mean they have to move vertically. It just means it would give them confidence to know how to move anywhere.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, if again, if they were, they're hearing this for the first time, what you just shared with them, what would be a process that you would normally, like, for the, say your average, person that's really looking to really move up to that next level?
I think, well, certainly, I'm going to promote the fact that we measure talent. So that would be a really good first step for people. And it would open up their eyes as to what's actually going on inside of them. What we've developed is based on the structure of a medical model. And simply a medical model not only teaches you qualitative information in terms of how you're feeling and symptoms that you might have, but the medical model really comes into being when it does quantitative information, which is when you go into the hospital to have diagnostic work. Our diagnostic work shows a person how they're mentally talented, cognitively talented, how they think, how they make decisions and judgments, which most people do a billion times a day, but they don't realize they're actually doing it. The second area is emotion. Are they a person who attaches themselves through EQ, emotional intelligence, people, or are they more inclined to do IQ, intellectual intelligence, abstract and reasoning? And then the third area is physicality, which is the easiest one because we can optically see that. What do you like in a work setting and how do you handle pressure? So when we do this, we put all of them together with an algorithm that translates that into a three-dimensional psychological outline of you, which is a lot of words, but simply it gives you the vision of what potential you actually have. Doesn't tell you what job to go do, but it would tell you what talents you have when you're in a particular job. So
Yes.
I'm working with Etihad Airlines now, and I'm working with their technical division. And these are all people that are very high IQ, very technically oriented, logical. So if a person out there understands about themselves that way, and they could be younger children, teenagers who are very inclined for technical work, their computers, to play games, all those things, they do well in the sciences, that would begin to give them outside indications of what we would probably measure. But what I'm doing with Etihad Airlines is teaching the technical division how to be human beings, which means, I don't mean to be disparaging, but simply they're not very talented when it comes to each other, humans. So we're teaching them how to use their profile to be better communicators, better interactive people. So you could flip the coin. So you have people who are very interactive and very people oriented, and they have technical world in their lives. We can take themes in their profile and show them how to use that.
Wow, that's great. So like I said, so this way, would it be safe to say, because I'm very familiar with Etihad Airlines. I used to be actually a former client of mine years ago in my prior career when I was in commercial aviation in the media space. And so it's basically looking to see how can you leverage, like, whatever those talents are, how can that be applied to whatever the strengths are in that role or duty, the role and duties, rather than getting caught up in the things that are their weaknesses. And that's not really, they're not really getting as much out of that person because they're more focused on that.
Yeah, Etihad is a really good example because they're in the UAE, and the people who live there are called Emiratis. And what they're trying to do in their beautiful organization is find a way to lift the Emiratis higher into the organization. Because right now they have a lot of expats that are in there working, and they're not trying to fire anybody. They're just trying to find talent and then coach it. But the beauty of this process is It's like medicine. If you go in with appendicitis and an Emirati goes in with appendicitis, the doctor doesn't really care whether you're an American or a UAE person. They find out and they operate and handle it. So this is not gender bias. So we can have the profile taken by a woman or a man, and it doesn't really matter. This is not age related, other than we don't profile a lot of people under the age of 14 because their language is not developed well enough. But it gives you all the information. It doesn't matter whether you're Jewish or you're Christian. I mean, all these black, white, it doesn't really matter. It really matters of understanding the human being that was placed on this earth to use their talent.
Wow. Yes, I love that. That's so good. It is so good. And I'm sure that, your client is benefiting from this, and so many organizations, require this. What do you feel like when you look at organizations overall, whether if it's a Fortune 500 company, it could be a small to mid-sized company, I guess regardless of size, do you feel like why aren't more companies taking advantage of these types of resources and tools and assessments that could really, really help their people reach their full potential, their full capability, so to speak?
Well, the question that you just asked is probably the most important question to ask over the last 2 to 3 years. We've had the Great Resignation. We've had people, unfortunately, get sick and pass away. But we've had a lot of people leave places and just go on to somewhere else. So companies right now are struggling to find talent. And oftentimes they're looking for a pulse that comes walking through the door, and they'll say, well, let's just hire this person now. The problem with that is you're doing a disservice to that person, because you may be putting them in a situation that they really can't handle, not because they're bad people, just because they don't have the talent to do it. And then if they are asked to leave later on, it really doesn't help them. It doesn't help your company because you're putting someone in. It's like me being 5'8" and the New York Knicks saying, we want you to play center. Yeah, okay, but I'm not 7 feet tall. Don't worry about it. We'll worry about one of them later. It's not going to work. And I think that's where we are in the world right now. An awful lot of companies are struggling to find talent. We can help with that, obviously. And I think the other problem is, before the pandemic, quite frankly, too many companies are doing too well. In other words, in the P&L statement, there isn't a line item that talks about mistakes.
Yeah.
It's just not there. I mean, it shows up in other areas later on, but if it showed up on that line that you just made, I'm just starting with a company in England now. They're losing 60% of their people. There isn't a line item. Indirectly there is, but there isn't a specific line item that says, you just lost 60 people. What did that cost you? I honestly think if they saw that more often, they would realize they got to do something, because if you don't have the right people, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Just putting a body or somebody in there to, fill, that's not going to, that's not going to serve. That's not going to serve that person. It's not going to serve you. And, the retention, rate, goes down, and, your onboarding costs continue to go up because those people come and go. And so true. So what are some of the things that you recommend in these cases that companies, take advantage of some of the platforms that you get involved with? I mean, being proactive than reactive. What would you suggest that they start looking at, up front, to kind of offset these issues?
Well, let me just tie in another area and I'll come right back to
Sure,
that.
yeah, please do.
The big movement in this world today is the concept of engagement. And engagement is when someone's mind, heart, and soul is totally in it. The United States has the highest level of engagement. It's just dropped 2 points, according to Gallup, from 37 to 35%. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, if I took a paper home that had 35% on it, mom would not have been very happy. So we shouldn't be happy, even though we got the highest score in the world, which tells you that we're not putting people in positions where they're maximizing their talent. And we're not doing an awful lot from a managerial point of view of how to commit that person or get that person engaged. If they have the right talent, you're on the right track. If they don't, you're struggling. According to the statistics in this country, we're hiring 1 out of 5 people correctly. So we got to go back to understanding, what are we looking at when we start hiring people? And the problem with hiring it is today, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but I'm just being honest, is we do it all optically. We spend a lot of times just looking at something and saying, yeah, that's true. When Malcolm Gladwell's book, Talking to Strangers, would tell you that's a huge mistake, because you think you know what you're looking at, but you really don't understand it. And the other problem that we have today is that we have thousands of people going through a system where someone goes, yeah, well, we'll take that one out and we'll take a look at it. And there's lots of people being missed. So if we had the talent profile up front, and let's suppose I'm looking for a person who can do X, Y, Z, then I could get the talent to match it long before I have to even look at them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing with Etihad. We're taking people that are Emiratis, profiling them, gaining their talent, and then taking a look at the person that we might want to replace, and just see who in that vertical, like human analytics, if you will, Moneyball, who would fit best with the talents that they have.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Makes sense. Totally. It's just one of those things you kind of wish that more companies would really be, instead of checking boxes, that really embrace this process that you're describing, and, invest in this, because they're going to save so much time and money on the back end, and it be able to kind of move out of that stagnant stage to, places of more innovation, creativity, growth, and so on. Because unless we change at each person that's part of this organization is changing, then we're going to be stagnant. We're not growing.
Chris, the other issue is, and again, I don't mean to be offensive to anyone, but a lot of the instruments that we're using to test what we call personality, which I don't believe they actually do, they're too linear, and they don't give us a true indication of who it is that we're looking at. So therefore, and I guess the whole idea is that this whole evolution of getting people to understand that there's a different way of doing this now. So oftentimes when I work with people in C group of companies who have a vested interest in the profitability of the company, they're the ones who are generally saying, you know what, we've been using all these other things and it's not working. Let's try something different. Let's try something that's newer, and ours is based on neurological science.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that a lot of those personality assessments they're very linear. You gotta, especially now in this world we're living in, we gotta go a step deeper. And again, it's never going to be spot on to 100%, but if we can get some more accurate information on what make people tick, and how can we bring the best out of them, those are the organizations that are going to have more sustainable success in their business, and be able to embrace challenges and rise above during those times of uncertainty. Yeah.
A lot of the instruments, I'm working with a client now in Kansas City. They're looking for a person who would be in essence a people position. And a lot of the instruments that they're using comes out and say that, yes, this is a people person. Linear.
Yep.
Ours would tell you is, okay, how and why? So is that person good one-on-one? That person good on
one to few, one to many? Yep.
A good presenter, a good leader. Ours gives you the why, where does it come from, and how can you use it, which makes it much more three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And a lot more accurate.
No, I agree 100%. So much more. That's so true. Yeah. And so, what would be some other things that, Gary, you could share about, vision of capability, like maximizing that, what you've already shared, like what could be some things individuals could be even doing on their own right now, to kind of, just kind of get things moving in the right direction for themselves?
Well, I just went in my granddaughter's 8th grade class last week for the second time. And I did an exercise with them, and it's something everybody could do. I asked them, will it matter that you were, or that I was? And of course, being 8th graders, they kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? Why are you asking that? But when we got into it, we basically came up with the idea that everybody matters. So the first thing I tried to get across to them is, don't believe anybody that tells you that you don't, because you do, but you need to figure out, how do you matter? So we took from our instrument what we call drivers. In other words, how are people driven? And there's 5 of them, which anybody out listening to this could be, how do I make an impact? How do I build relationships? How do I handle pressure? How do I handle growth? And how do I handle an organization? So I took the kids through that to talk about, if you're going to matter, then how do you make an impact? What are you doing? And it doesn't be that you have to be a superstar to make an impact. It could be something that you do with your mom this afternoon or your friends. You know, I'll be nice. That would be a starter for most of the people in the world right now. Let's just be nice. And they would, and as 8th graders do, once you get them hooked into their ideas, which is a millennial concept, then they'll go with this. And they were really good. I had them working in small teams, talking about impact, relationships, personal growth, and there are little things that you can do to start thinking about mattering, and then using your talents and escalating yourself into a better position for your life.
Wow, that's wonderful. I love that. Yeah, and I think, obviously, the sooner we can plant these seeds with our youth, the better. And I'm a firm believer doing that earlier rather than later is so beneficial. I love the fact that you were able to do that for her and her classmates. So, no, great. Anything else that you would like to share, Gary, in terms of, capability? Like when we think about, it's a process, right? So it's something like, hey, you don't do this for a certain period of time and then, okay, then it's on autopilot. Yes, you get better. Things could, we can think differently, and that becomes, embedded in our subconscious mind. But nonetheless, we got to keep doing things. So is there any other recommendations you could share briefly that could, help somebody to keep, moving this along?
Well, again, I'll go back to the idea, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher or both, whether you're a leader in business or whether you're a coach of kids in sport. We developed a sporting program for the NFL, the PGA, MLS, Major League Soccer, that was all based on strength-based coaching. So we put parents through a program of how to bring out the strength and the talent you have in the kids that you're coaching. And the whole idea was, even though we have winning in our title, winning isn't necessarily a score. Winning is the experience that you have, the fun that you're having. The thing about children is play is oxygen.
Yeah.
They need to get involved in. So these are all activities. One of the greatest points in my life was I worked with, unfortunately, he's passed away, Bill Walsh, the coach for the 49ers. And I helped develop what's on TV today called Play 60. And it was all designed to create an atmosphere of strength and development and coaching. So these things that I'm talking about, although they may seem a bit abstract, actually can filter their way all the way through school, home, sport, it doesn't matter. And it's really building on strength.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love what you just shared. And you've worked with so many key people, which is, and it really just solidifies all the things about, capability. And these were, Bill Walsh was a master at that. Obviously, what he did with the 49ers, taking them from a mediocre team and turning them into a powerhouse back in the Joe Montana and Steve Young days and so on. So true. Gary, we're towards the end of our show, but I wanted to give the audience an opportunity to get to know you. What are you up to? Where can people find you? And I love to make sure that, they know how to get in contact with you.
Well, I think the most important thing to know about me is I have a lovely wife who I've been married to for maybe more years than she would like to admit, but we have a great marriage. We have 4 children. We lost one of our children. She died 2 years ago. That's not the way the world's supposed to work. We're supposed to go before they go.
Absolutely.
But I have beautiful kids, grandkids. And that's probably the most important thing that I do every day. And the beauty of that is, and I told you about my granddaughter's class, is we've now experimented in profiling 11 and 12-year-olds with our instrument, which technically you're not supposed to be able to do it. But her profile and the other young lad that we're working with is hopefully going to be the next Tiger Woods. He's only 11, but he is unbelievable. So we've now profiled those age groups, and I'm doing that. So I'm working with airlines, I'm working in Olympians, I'm working with retail. And the beauty about retail is you're working with people. Just a quick story of working with 500 people in a store, and 35 of them are the leaders. The other people are the workers. The most important part of that equation is profiling the workers so that the leaders know how to manage them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm busy.
Yes. So what would be the best way they can get in contact with you? Like email, website? What would be best for them?
Winningprofile.com is our website. My email address is Gary, GARY.RUSSELL at winningprofile.com. Those would be the two best ways to contact me to learn more. And it doesn't cost you anything to talk to me.
I can attest, he's worth the call. He is a wealth of knowledge, and we highly encourage you take advantage of this offer to reach out and get to know Dr. Gary Russell. He's a great guy and a lot of wisdom, and you get a lot of great direction by reaching out to them. Gary, I want to thank you so much for taking your time out of your schedule to be with us here today, sharing your insights, experience, and there's so many other things you and I can talk about, and we'll save that for a future show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, I'm blessed being here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, listeners, we want to thank you each and every week here joining us here at Business Influencers. As mentioned earlier in the show, we are committed to your success and moving your business to the next level. We highly encourage you again to listen to this episode in its entirety here later today, either at the TALRadio.org website, Apple, Spotify, or even our YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out. Again, all that information on the TALRadio.org website. Also, reach out to us here at Chris@ChristopherSalem.com. If there's any subject matter or certain areas that you would like to see on a future show, let us know. We are well connected, and we can see which subject matter expert that we can align with in that particular area that could bring that information to you and allow you to apply it to the next level in your business. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week. Have a great day.